Explaining the greatest movie villains in 11 minutes. Darth Vader from the film Star Wars. An imposing figure, shrouded in black armor and defined by his metallic breathing, Darth Vader has become one of the most recognizable faces in cinema. His tragic journey from a promising hero to the right hand of the Empire adds layers that go beyond simple villainy. He represents the power of temptation and loss, carrying a human dilemma within an almost mechanical body. His mastery of the Force makes him a formidable adversary, capable of subduing any enemy with ease. But more than his abilities, what truly impresses is the aura of authority he carries in every appearance. Science fiction cinema would never be the same without his presence. It's this narrative weight that secures his place among the greatest villains in history. Hannibal Lecter, from the film The Silence of the Lambs. Hannibal doesn't need monsters or powers to be terrifying. His refined charm and clinical intelligence create a disturbing combination, making him both polite and unpredictable. The way he manipulates those around him shows that true terror often comes from the mind, not brute force. Throughout the film, every conversation with him is a psychological battle, as if he's always two steps ahead. The coldness with which he analyzes and dismantles people reinforces his status as a constant threat. Hannibal also symbolizes the fear that even the most elegant sophistication can hide something dark. It is precisely this contrast that places him among the most memorable antagonists in cinema. The Joker, from the film The Dark Knight. The Joker is the personification of chaos in Gotham, an agent of the unpredictable who seeks neither wealth nor power, but simply to destabilize everything around him. His presence in the film is almost hypnotic, constantly placing heroes and civilians in situations where there is no clean victory. With his twisted mind, he tests the moral limits of society, revealing just how fragile people can be in the face of fear. The intense and visceral performance elevated the character to legendary status in cinema. The clown prince of crime doesn't need grand plans, only the certainty that everyone is vulnerable. Every gesture is calculated to unsettle, and that makes him unforgettable. He is the kind of antagonist who shows how anarchy can be even more frightening than any weapon. Lord Voldemort from the film Harry Potter. Born as Tom Riddle, Voldemort is the portrait of a relentless pursuit for immortality and absolute dominion. His disdain for human life and obsession with blood purity establish him as a threat that extends beyond the wizarding world. The absence of human features in his appearance reinforces his transformation into something almost beyond comprehension. Every spell he casts carries the intent to dominate, humiliate, or eliminate anyone who dares to challenge him. The fear he inspires is so great that many don't even dare to speak his name. More than just facing Harry, he represents the collective fear of an evil that knows no bounds. It is this mix of power and symbolism that immortalizes him among the great antagonists of cinema. Thanos, from the film Avengers: Infinity War and Endgame. Thanos is not just a titanic warrior, but a strategist who genuinely believes he is saving the universe. His twisted vision of balance, by eliminating half of all life, makes him disturbingly compelling. Unlike villains who act out of pure greed, he has his own logic that gives strength to his narrative. The power granted by the Infinity Stones places him on a level almost unreachable for any hero. Even surrounded by superpowers, what's most frightening is his calm determination, as if his victory is inevitable. His cultural impact was massive, turning him into a symbol of a global threat in modern cinema. Thanos proves that sometimes the most devastating danger comes from someone who believes they are right. Freddie Krueger from the film A Nightmare on Elm Street. With his bladed glove and fire-scarred face, Freddy is the villain who invades the most private place of all, our dreams. His ability to turn nightmares into reality created a new level of terror in cinema. Unlike ordinary slashers, he toys with his victims, savoring every moment of fear. The mix of macabre humor and psychological cruelty made him unique among monsters of the genre. There is no easy escape, because even falling asleep becomes dangerous when he's around. The franchise solidified Freddy as an icon who has crossed generations of horror fans. His legacy lies in the fear that not even your own mind is a safe refuge. Jason Voorhees from the film Friday the 13th. Silent, massive, and practically indestructible, Jason has become a legend of slasher horror. With his hockey mask and machete in hand, he is the personification of a constant and unavoidable threat. His brutal strength creates a feeling that nothing can stop him, no matter how hard you try. Although his story began as a victim, he quickly became the nightmare of Crystal Lake. Audiences learned to associate his mere presence with the promise of imminent carnage. The horror genre owes much of its aesthetic and structure to the films where Jason was the main attraction. His endurance as a legend shows how a villain can become bigger than the story itself. Michael Myers from the film Halloween. Michael Myers is the image of pure evil, devoid of compassion and almost without an identity. His white mask and empty gaze turn him into a specter that haunts the small town of Haddonfield. Unlike other villains who speak or explain their actions, he is a pure absence of humanity. His every movement is slow yet inevitable, building tension with each on-screen appearance. The idea that he never truly goes away reinforces his supernatural aura, even in more realistic stories. The cultural impact of Halloween solidified the slasher genre and established him as the blueprint for the indestructible villain. Michael is less a man and more a symbol of a terror that never ends. Agent Smith from the film The Matrix. Agent Smith is the incarnation of the system in its most relentless form. A program created to control the Matrix, he evolves into something even more dangerous. A virus capable of corrupting everything around him. His calm speech and controlled expression hide a deep revulsion for humanity. Unlike explosive villains, Smith is meticulous, inspiring fear through the cold logic of his actions. His fight against Neo is more than physical. It is a battle between freedom and oppression. The elegance and constant threat he conveys have made him one of the most memorable figures in science fiction. He represents the idea that the enemy can be the very system that upholds reality. Anton Chigurh from the film No Country for Old Men. Anton Chigurh is an assassin who is terrifying precisely because of his unpredictability. Armed with a simple cattle gun, he eliminates anyone who crosses his path, with no need for an explanation. His serene and emotionless demeanor creates a disturbing contrast with the violence he commits. More than just taking lives, he seems to be testing the luck and fate of people, as if following a logic that only he understands. Every scene he is in conveys a suffocating sense of inevitability. There is no supernatural grandeur to him, only the banality of evil taken to its extreme. It is this almost inhuman coldness that secures his position among the great antagonists of cinema. Pennywise from the film It. A colorful clown that transforms into a terrifying creature? Pennywise is the villain who feeds on our most intimate fears. His ability to manipulate illusions makes him unpredictable, as he always exploits the psychological weaknesses of his victims. With each appearance, he changes his form, reinforcing the idea that he can never be fully understood. The contrast between his playful appearance and his true nature creates constant discomfort. The fact that he appears every 27 years gives him an almost mythical status within the story. More than a monster, he is a reflection of human insecurities. Pennywise shows how childhood fears can haunt you well into adult life. Hans Landa, from the film Inglourious Basterds. Known as the Jew Hunter, Hans Landa is a villain whose primary weapon is verbal manipulation. His polite smile and refined manners hide the brutality of his intentions. He creates tension not through immediate violence, but through the certainty that he controls every conversation. The intelligence and cunning with which he conducts his interrogations keep the audience on edge. His actions go beyond the war, representing the bureaucratic coldness of an oppressive system. Christoph Waltz brought to life a character who is both mesmerizing and terrifying. Hans Landa proves that cruelty can be disguised as charm and diplomacy. Jigsaw from the film Saw. John Kramer, better known as Jigsaw, is a villain who doesn't take lives directly, but instead forces his victims to decide their own fate. His elaborate and brutal traps are always accompanied by a twisted moral philosophy. He believes he is offering a chance for redemption, when in reality he is imposing inescapable suffering. The ingenuity of each trap keeps the audience both curious and horrified. Unlike common movie killers, Jigsaw sees himself as a judge of life, dictating who deserves to survive. This sick philosophy sets him apart within the horror genre. His legacy in cinema lies in the mixture of sadism and reflection on human choices. Scar from the film The Lion King. Even in an animated film, Scar proved that villains can be just as complex as heroes. Driven by envy and a thirst for power, he meticulously plots Mufasa's downfall and his own takeover of the throne. His sarcastic wit and calculating gaze reinforce his cunning and coldness. Upon seizing power, he brings the savannah to ruin, showing the weight of his tyranny. His song and theatrical presence amplify the character's impact within the story. Scar left a mark on generations by showing how ambition can corrupt family bonds. He is an example of an antagonist whose malice transcends the world of children's movies and captivates all ages. Sauron from the film The Lord of the Rings. Sauron is absolute evil in the form of power, an entity whose influence extends over all of Middle-earth. Even without a constant physical presence, his shadow dominates the narrative and fuels fear among all peoples. The One Ring is the materialization of his essence, capable of corrupting even the noblest of hearts. The sheer scale of his threat requires heroes of different races to unite against him. He needs no lines or constant appearances, as his presence is felt in every detail of the plot. He is the ultimate example of how the idea of absolute power can poison the world. Sauron remains one of the pillars of the fantasy genre in cinema.